Hello, everyone. Welcome to Morning Shot. And did you know, Byron, there was a great opinion piece over the weekend by someone from Azapo. And he says the reason why black people are killing each other is because of is it because of the proliferation of guns? Is it because of poverty? Is it because of hate? No, no, no. Black people are killing each other because of white racism. I Yes, that is actually a real article
Mm.
that came out in City Press, and because essentially, and I'll quote, racism so desensitized the killers of the tavern owners that we've been talking about that the black pain is so great that they could randomly shoot and kill other black people for no apparent reasons other than they looked like themselves. There was no quarrel between the killers and the victims. This is how violent we can be against fellow black people. So once again, when black people kill black people, blame whitey because that is the most obvious conclusion we can draw.
So Propaganda 24 obviously pushed this article through City Press, and all part of the same group. And it's an opinion piece, by the way, so it's not news. But you know the way Propaganda 24 pushes this is like news, but it's an opinion. And the writer basically says that apparently, yeah, just that. Apparently, the level of hatred displayed to other black people was learned by whitey's hate to the black people. And so, because we hate black people so much, apparently, this is what they say. I don't say that. But they say that. They say because apparently the white people hate blacks so much that the blacks have learned to emulate that and copy it, and how they hate each other. And it's because of whites. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know about you. I mean, when I was in like grade 5, I think we did like the old fashioned history of Shaka Zulu. I mean, I came from Zulu province. We did some classes on Shaka Zulu and what happened with Dingaan, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, but black tribal warfare, much like European tribal warfare, has occurred since like the dawn of time. So this notion that like before the white man set his foot on this land, like everybody was just sitting in the Garden of Eden, tilling crops and watching their cows, is a bit like, huh? Like, are you for real? Like, are you really saying that? And actually, yeah, he
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah. No, he really is. He really is because the essence of black violence in South Africa for him is self hatred, and they only learned self hatred from whiteys like us for some particular reason. So, for example, he goes on to say that self hatred has dumped us in a corner where we cannot tolerate competition by fellow black people. If there's a black person who does well in the same business space as ours, we hire thugs to go and kill them and burn down their property. Yet, white people are welcome to do business in the townships through their gigantic malls that destroy our spaza shops. Unfortunately, what the writer fails to consider in all of this is that it's not self hatred. It's not because someone's black that they do this. It is a question of culture and a question of how we deal with violence, right? So, for example, Europeans have dealt with violence for centuries and centuries and centuries. And only the last 300 years have they said, actually, the best way to deal with violence is for the state to have a monopoly on violence. That is the way to do it. That will create a third party, which is a sort of arbiter of justice, and you take away the tit and tat of violence between individuals. You go to the court, you use the state violence, you use the state to adjudicate that violence and what the punishment should be and who is at fault in a particular thing. In Africa and in South Africa, most predominantly, we don't have a justice system for the most part. We don't have a culture going back centuries of adjudicating justice through peaceful means. This is a country that is basically built on conquest, whether it's Zulu conquest or English conquest or Afrikaner conquest or whatever you want it to be, Dutch conquest as well. It is a country built on conquest. There were attempts to adjudicate violence in peaceful means, but they backfired. When Piet Retief went to go see, I think it was Dingaan or Schleswig, I can't remember, they signed a peace treaty and then Piet Retief was killed by the Zulu king as soon as he signed the peace treaty. So therefore, that also violence beget violence. But this notion that white people taught black people to hate themselves is so far out of the realm of possibility that only a true intellectual could write such a thing and think that it is normal and safe to publish this
On
under
News
public
24,
scrutiny. Yeah,
the largest
on
the
News
largest news
24.
platform in South Africa, published this as an opinion piece. And you're like, but intellectually, I'm not even going to say intellectually bankrupt. I'm going to say intellectually distorted. It's intellectually fraught. It's just intellectually dead. It's like, you know, did white people ever have violence on themselves? Like, yeah, in Europe, like, just not forget the way we used to do it is the Vikings went around and raped and pillaged everything. And then the Enlightenment happened and they recognized that wasn't so cool, man. And we had an entire 40-year war where this happened following the Protestant Reformation. And hundreds of thousands of people died everywhere. I mean, the rivers of France apparently flowed with blood. The blood was so much. Like, we've had our bloody revolutions. We've had World War II. We've had World War One. Like, we've seen that the rule of law is the best way to be. So when we turn around by this, it's not just because we say this because we white. Like, blood was spilt over this. What we're attempting to do is we're saying this is the best way to form a democratic state and a peaceful state because we bled blood over this. A lot of it. So does that mean that we're supreme? No, it just means that like we're really good at killing ourselves. Like
Yeah.
it's just how
And
just how it is. But
and also this notion of solving competitive issues through violence is also a factor that is about a declining economy, right? If the economy is growing and there's healthy competition, then you sort it out peacefully through the justice system. But if you
correct,
live in a lawless area like most of KZN, right, which is controlled by gangs with AK-47s and the construction mafia, for example, the intent is to accumulate resources through violence in the first place. It's not ask the construction mafia what they like, you know, did white people call them to be self-hated? Of course not. They were like, no, of course not. I just want a piece of the pie and I'll use violence to get to it because that is what I know. That is what I know is effective and that is what has worked for me in the past. It makes complete and logical sense for them to use it forever and a day after that. But it's not because they were called the K word once when they were a child, and now they're like violent individuals. Like that just doesn't make sense at all. And there's no evidence anywhere in the world for that to make sense.
yeah. So I mean, one argument to this kind of whole logic that we're pushing forward is something else we've seen, especially with the tavern shootings. Maybe it's, and this is what we've also heard, like only the army and the police should have guns. It's because of the proliferation of guns in South Africa. Now I don't know if I haven't shared this article with you, so I'm actually I'll have your live reaction to it. But apparently, one of the things that came out today is apparently in one of the taverns, they have now investigated and found one of the people that were involved in the tavern shooting. And the person was a Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department officer that was responsible for some of the killings. So their whole narrative of, well, it's because of the proliferation of guns here, and only the police should have it. The people who did this were police. And that's because there's been a breakdown of even the police and the justice system in the country. This level of violence occurs because there is no one to hold them accountable. It has nothing to do with the racial composition of the people. It has something to do
Yeah,
with the fact that we live in a lawless land where you can do this and the likelihood of you even being found and charged on it is very small. This officer here, they've found him, they've arrested him. But let's face it, will there even be enough evidence for the MPA to prosecute? Will the MPA even have a prosecutor to prosecute? Will they even have the desire to prosecute? The answers to all of these is probably no. And you know who's going to know that best? Police officers. Because they
yeah,
work in this environment. They watch the dockets disappear. They watch the MPA looking at the most obvious case going, I'm not prosecuting that. And so there is no consequence for them even being engaged in this level of criminal enterprise, which is why even with the construction mafia, quite often they have the backing of the police. So this isn't endemic of a racial problem. It's
yeah,
endemic of a societal collapse. It's endemic of the fact that we have no justice system. The police system doesn't work out. But
exactly. And when things collapse, vacuums are created, and those vacuums are filled by people with intent, malice, and weapons.
and
And there you
also
go.
who
They
feel they
call
want to,
mafias.
and the people who also want to self-enrich. We call them politicians. But to sit
But it's not
there,
because they hate themselves.
to sit there and kind of go, oh well, it's all the white people's fault because we taught everybody to hate themselves. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I know it's cool in any country in the world at the moment. Like, hate the whitey. Doesn't matter if it's England or America or wherever. But like, even this is reaching. Even this is reaching.
Yeah, and for absolute clarity, the Morning Shot does not hate black people at all. In fact, we prefer more black people than white liberals. So therefore, we are extremely racist towards white libs. If they could leave the country would be a much better place. And I think Byron agrees with me.
100%. If all white libtards could jump on a plane and fuck off to Australia, we'd be much appreciative. If you could leave all the really cool, hardcore, conservative, good Christian values, hardworking blacks behind, we'll also be really, really, really happy for that. So even if you have some black libtards that want to fuck off to Australia, by all means, go join the whiteys in Australia.
More than welcome.
Like, more than welcome.
Yeah, more than welcome. Like, we're not racist, we just hate libtards, which is not a race, sort of.
It's a religion. It's not a race.
There we go. So we're all for religious persecution of libtards, but not on a racial. Any libtard, irrespective of their color. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And I'm so glad we got this off our chest, Byron. It's very important to let the people know what we stand for.
Absolutely. Anyway, everyone, before we get demonetized and told that we're racist, we better sign off now. So take it easy.
All right.
Thanks.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.